Welcome to InterWho. I'm Logan.
I'm Ben, and today we have Rich and George, who are the Bald AV guys on what show do you guys have?
Cables, coffee, and curveballs.
I'm glad you got that name right, Rich.
Yes, I always do.
So, we're also joined by someone else. If she would like to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Cece. I'm a student at Pace University studying communications.
So, a question that I had for all of you is, how did your journey lead you to Pace?
Wow.
Cece, your track is
Yeah,
the
I
most
guess
fresh,
I'm the
so why
most
don't you?
recent.
Yeah, jump in there.
I got the opportunity to tour Pace, and I really liked it, and I decided that it was the school I wanted to go to. And originally, I was an education major. This is Rich's favorite story.
It is.
And I took his class.
Here.
It was an intro to AV class, and I was like, I need to change my major. And so there's no AV major, so I switched over to communications, and now I'm doing a lot of different things in like media, and yeah.
And she's also the intern for the Bald AV guys this
Yeah.
semester. So hey.
And a student worker at Educational Media, which is
Hey,
the AV department.
hey.
And
AKA a
president
rock
of
star.
AV Club.
Yep.
And
President.
Wow. Where do you get the time to do all this stuff?
I don't know.
And look, joining us on a Friday morning. Look at
And
that.
Look at that. How about that?
How about you, George? About 50 years ago when you joined Pace?
Well-
Tell us the story.
Well, 50 years.
Back when dinosaurs were still roaming the earth.
He's going to get about 4 more of those in before the show ends.
Yes.
But it's pretty close. We came over to the U.S. from India back in '96. I started my journey at Pace back in '99. Yes, that was a long time ago. Don't look at me like
Wow.
that, CC.
I was
wasn't
I
even
was roaming the
born.
halls of OHS in '99,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
ironically.
Yeah. And I was a computer science student, and I started working full-time at Educational Media, and that's where I fell in love with the AV field, and I've been in the AV field since. That was probably around 2003.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Wow.
I graduated from OHS in '02. I was ready. I had my ticket punched to go to Siena College, upstate New York. And something about Pace drew me in. I told my parents I was never going to stay home for school. I had to go away. Lo and behold, I've been at Pace for 22 years now.
It was probably my presence.
Well, at some point, I met George and, we became friends and so on. But yeah, my journey began as a business major and a school of ed in my grad school. And I've always just worked in AV and IT. And here we are today building this program and this fun AV program at Pace.
What was kind of like one thing that really made you fall in love with AV and things like that? If there was one.
Do you want the long version or the short version?
Long version. We do interviews. This is what we do. Give us the
Yeah,
long version.
give him the long version. I'm going to have to cut him off at some point, but let's let
Yeah.
him start.
So, when I started working in AV,
Can we insert the meme here? It's been 84 years.
yeah.
Sorry, that was 2.
Two, yeah.
Angela's
There's
keeping
at
count.
least 2 more, yeah. Over under 5. Let's, but when I started working as a student worker, as a part-time student worker at Educational Media, it was purely just a job on the side, right? And then I started working full time because the opportunity came up, and by the time I graduated, the recession was coming around and all these kind of things. It was tough to get a job, so I remained full time at Pace, and I started getting more and more involved with AV. Then eventually I found my way to Bloomberg, and that's where I really started falling in love with AV because was a lot more involved with everything that was happening with AV and all these kind of things. And then eventually I ended up coming back to Pace, and by that point I was neck deep in AV. And I don't know when it happened, just it was true love. You know what I mean? Like just fell into AV and fell in love.
Aww.
Yeah, that was the short version. I
I
was
love
trying to
CC
keep
jumps
that.
in there. Oh,
So that's very interesting. So for you, it was more just an overtime, just like being in the industry, around people in the industry. It kind of just clicked for you.
Correct. And I'll let Rich to get to his story and CC hers, but I'll tell you the one common story that you will hear across the industry among all our AV professionals is we fell into the industry and then we fell in love. It's a very common theme.
yeah, I think that's a good point. It's there's the reason, and I think we'll get into the program we're building, but the reason that we're building this because there is no formal, CC alluded to, there's no AV major, there's no AV minor. The courses we're building are from scratch. They don't exist anywhere else. I pushed carts around as a student worker for George 20 years ago.
74 years ago.
Yeah, that's see, it wasn't as funny when he said it. It's supposed to be. It's been 84 years with the little Titanic meme. But I was pushing carts around. I actually went from like a programming job, like, coding and stuff, which wasn't for me. And I actually took a huge pay cut. I was making, I don't know, 20 years ago, $10 an hour or $11, which is back then was a lot of money. A lot, like,
Yeah.
I took a pay cut of $6 an hour to work for George.
Yeah.
But
Just to be with
the
me.
only the only reason I am where I am today is because I took a step back, if you will. But it really was, to me, that was steps forward. So that's kind of where it started. I always tell that story because that's where it kind of began for me. You would think taking a pay cut, you're like, why would you do that? But it ended up being a net positive for me in 20 years later. So
I would say for me, Rich and George invited me to a conference last spring on Paces City campus, and I had such trouble getting there. I missed the Pace shuttle, and I was almost late, but I got there. I made it, and it was there that I really learned about AV, especially in higher education, and it was just really interesting to hear people speak about it and just talk about their experiences, especially within schools and stuff. And from there, I don't know, I just fell in love with it.
And she didn't even realize that she was sitting with heavy hitters in the room, the tables that she was sitting at.
Yep.
But
she was the only student, by the way, at that whole conference. She took a whole day off from, mind you, we're up here at Pleasantville, 2 towns over, all the way downtown to the Brooklyn Bridge
yeah,
on her own dime, the whole nine.
it's a very proud moment for Rich and me.
That's a legit, true heartwarming story, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that her perspective is very important on this, though, coming from a student rather than someone who teaches it. Because I feel like if you're teaching it to some degree, you're gonna have some sort of bias. So, what is your what is your honest opinion on how now being a part of the industry a little bit more as it's developed more at Pace? How do you feel like it's changed from when you started to where you are now?
So I've always been involved in AV, in high school and stuff. I would edit videos and we would do little podcasts like this. But I never really knew it was AV. I never really sat there and thought about it till I took that intro class. And then just learning about it, it made me realize how much I enjoyed it. So the more I learned, the more I was interested in learning more. So, and I've just seen the program develop with the classes. Now, this semester I'm doing a PM class, project management with Rich and George. And we're actually redesigning a classroom in one of our buildings. So we're making a plan to redesign it from an AV standpoint. So they have a projector right now, and my team is working to put a TV in instead. So it's just a lot of fun, and we get hands-on experience, which I really like.
So I guess to kind of build off that, all of you guys, what was kind of one of your favorite, I wouldn't say projects, but one of your kind of favorite things to do and record once you already kind of got into the field?
You mean from a podcast or anything from the AV world?
I would say probably just anything from the AV world. I mean, if you guys have a favorite episode from a podcast that stuck out, I remember when Rich came as a guest speaker, he talked about how you guys had military guys on. Yeah, and I thought that story was very interesting.
Yes.
But maybe George has a different perspective on maybe another episode he thought was really entertaining.
Yeah, I mean the favorite part of that, I'm still convinced that one of them was going to land on a chopper.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that
you got to tell that story.
that possibility.
We actually
still
just met with him
exists.
yesterday. Actually, our friend Gary, who's working for Micro Theory Engineering now, but they convinced us that they were going to fly some sort of helicopter from West Point to Pace, and I guess land it somewhere,
The football field.
Football field, I guess, and then come join us for a podcast. And up until that day, I kid you not, remember when George remembers this. I walked outside when we were waiting for them. I'm not exaggerating. A helicopter did fly over us. It was just pure coincidence. And then they obviously wasn't them, but they showed up 5 minutes later in a car. But that they had us convinced just because sometimes over email you can't tell if somebody's
we
being
texted
serious.
him to be sure, and Gary responded with, "I never kid about my birds."
Yes, that was the direct quote from Gary.
I
Yes.
just kept looking up because I was like, "They're coming from there. They're not coming in a car. It's just not going to happen." And then we're going to get in trouble because they're going to land a chopper on the football field. But what would I say?
It's actually a presentation. George and I did a presentation last year in California to, I don't know, what do you think, a room of 250 people.
Probably close to it, yeah.
Mostly are all academia, higher ed type folks and industry folks. And it was basically us saying like, hey, we've been talking about this program we're building at Pace for the past year. Now look what we've done. Like we've actually run the course twice. We're running a second course and we're building this minor. And like we've been getting email, even like I'd say once a week, right, George? Maybe give or take. We're getting emails from people like, hey, I'm following up. Like it's been a few months, but like I'm following up because I finally had time to see what you guys are doing at Pace, and I really want to try to build it. So we're trying to like build that network out, right, and share what we're doing. So we gave that presentation, and it stuck with a lot of people. We actually just got asked to be keynote speakers at Infocom in June in Las Vegas,
which is the fourth largest show in the U.S.
It's the largest AV show in the U.S. Right,
Fourth largest tech.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, as soon as keynote speak, that's going to be our favorite moment, I think. Absolutely. But that's in the future, so I guess I can't say it yet. Yeah. But we just got that this week, so that was really awesome news.
I don't think I could pick one episode or one moment. For me, it's when the show is coming closer towards the end and we have our dad jokes lined up.
Oh yeah, the dad jokes are great.
Like we deliver them, we know what the jokes are, and yet it cracks me up every time.
Yeah.
And it just really brings a nice little conclusion to the show.
Yeah.
And I think those are about my favorite parts.
I think CC is going to have to make like a reel of all of our dad jokes, like compiled, right? I think it's probably a good
Somebody
project.
gave us an idea that it would be a great social media release to do like a
just dad joke after dad joke
for Father's Day.
Oh, she's nodding and smiling.
Fitting.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where she was going to go with that, if she was going to agree or not. All right. She said it's fitting. Good.
So CC, what about you? Is there like, for the programs at Pace, do you often record anything? Is there anything where you were like, I remember when I walked in, I did this one thing, and that like it was just super entertaining. It was fun for me. People around me enjoyed it. What was that moment for you?
So I actually used to run a podcast for one of my classes. It was about like water and water quality, like drinking water quality, and we needed a way to get information relayed to like everyone, and we thought like, oh, let's just make a podcast. So I think like one of my first times in the podcast studio, I would say, is like super memorable because I walked in and I was like, wow, like it's very like different from any other like podcasting studio I've ever been in. And like I learned how to use all the technology, like the soundboard we have, all the microphones and stuff. And I was like, wow, I really love this.
I can kind of relate to that experience when I walked in to the podcast studio at OHS. I remember, both of us can. I remember I walked in and I looked at Angela and I was just so nervous because everything looked expensive and breakable and I didn't trust myself around it. And I was like, this all looks like way too confusing. And she was like, you see these like 3 buttons right here? That's really all you need. And it was kind of reassuring to some degree. So, kind of bridging off of this now, what do you think will be accomplished with this new minor at Pace? Do you think it's going to give an easier path for people, or how do you think that's going to affect the ever-growing AV industry?
So I feel like a lot of people, from my perspective, don't know about AV. Like when I tell people I work at educational media, they're like, what's that?
Oh.
And I like have to explain it, and they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I feel like getting it to become a minor and eventually a major could kind of help people learn what AV is more. Like it's such a broad category and there's so many things incorporated into it. But it really is so important, like, and we use it all the time. So I feel like it'll just help people learn more about AV, and especially like how important it is now with all the times that we use like Zoom and conferencing, video conferencing, and in classrooms and stuff.
Do you think more people would be interested in it if they knew like what it was?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I spoke on the panel that you guys had come to, I feel like a lot of the high schoolers didn't really know what AV was. Like even when I talked to some of them like individually, they're like, oh, like it was a good introduction to learning about it. Like they didn't really know.
Let's put a quick pause on that. We'll be right back after the ads.
Welcome back. We're here with George and Rich from the Bald AV guys. Kind of leaning back into questions for all of you guys. How do you think the AV industry will change moving forward?
That's how will it move forward?
$408 billion industry. I'm gonna leave that there for George, and then ready, set, go.
It will change as you guys shape it. When you come on,
he's a philosopher now.
I'm a philosophizer. When you guys come to Pace, take this AV minor and go into this $408 billion industry, you could shape it however you want. That's the beauty of it. Okay. So, and I'll say it, you know, at this point, I'm not even ashamed to say it. The industry right now is a bunch of failed musicians and actors. It is what it is. Okay. It's a booming industry. It's a hugely booming industry with not enough talent. And we experience this every day. Okay. So, once our objective with this program, with this career track, is not to flatten the curve. It's never going to happen because no matter where you go, anytime you start a new job, there's always going to be a learning curve. But we want to lower the curve, and that's our tagline essentially. Is we want to lower the curve, right? So, I thought you were going to say something.
You want me to say something?
Say something.
You were like on your soapbox. I was letting you go.
I know, but I know we have a timer.
I wanted Cece to jump in there on that because like she's like right in the middle of this
She is
communication.
trailblazing the hell out of this.
Switched her major, communications, trying to get her that AV minor before she leaves us next year. You know,
Trailblazer.
The way I'm
trailblazer,
looking
rock
at it,
star.
you guys are just growing the future, and she is the future. So
Yeah,
what would your take?
Mike-
be
Mike
on-
drop.
done.
Mic
well
drop.
done. Well done.
I feel
No
like
pressure,
for me,
Cece.
I know this is a lot of pressure. I don't know. For me, I see myself like working in AV, but I see like technology being more advanced, and like I feel like my goal, like for career wise, is to be like to help teach other people about AV. Like I feel like not a lot of people like know about it, and like I was saying earlier, like it's something that's so important that like people should have a basic knowledge of, even if they're not interested in. So I feel like for me, what I see is like AV becoming a minor, becoming a major, and more people will know about it. Like it'll be a common thing to be studying AV.
See, that's very interesting that you say that, because from the people in the industry that I've talked to through guest speakers, through the talent summit, all that, all of them always say like, I had no clue what it was, and then one thing in high school showed me that this was like a path, and ever since then I've just been on that path. Would you say that was similar for you? Just
Yeah, like George was saying earlier, like you fall in the industry and then you fall in love. Like I just took this random class and I was like, I need elective credit. Like let me just take it. And then I really loved it.
We were just an elective?
so
Oh,
you guys-
man.
you guys
Yeah,
weren't even
okay.
Jeez. Quiet little Cece sitting in the back, just
Yeah.
quiet, taking an elective.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It
There we
is
are.
true. Before like I started doing everything with AV, like I was very the type of student who would like sit in the back of the class. I wouldn't say anything during class. I would just sit and watch.
Oh, we brought her out of her
And-
shell, she's saying.
Yeah.
Perfect
You
attendance,
did.
right? Perfect attendance ribbon.
attendance.
Did
Yeah, I
I
don't know
bring
how
that?
you did that.
Gonna need to bring her a perfect attendance ribbon today.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to throw that in there.
So you said something else that was very interesting. You said, I think as technology gets more advanced, do you think that the AV industry is like a great testing ground for new technology? As new technology comes in, maybe a higher quality mic or a higher quality soundboard, that the industry will grow even more and more? Or do you think that like no matter what, the industry is always going to be here? It's just the quality that you produce from it.
I think that like as new things come out, like new microphones and stuff, like more companies will like be encouraged to like use them, like new products and stuff, like newer technology, especially in schools. Like now that I have the perspective from the class of like redoing the classroom and like redesigning with new technology, you really see how outdated technology gets within just a few years. So every few years technology is updated, and I feel like every program like our university is going to continue to upgrade their technology.
Yeah. I can add that, you know, AV has been around for a long, long, long time, right? If you go back to the 60s, I mean, concerts. You start with concerts, you go with TVs, on and on and on and on.
You guys even know what an overhead projector is? Remember those transparency projectors? Did you have
Transparency.
those?
I think I did actually have one growing up.
I had them in. I remember my high school math teacher here at OHS, Mr. D, math was a classic for those. Like had stacks of those, and that's what we would do all class. Sorry,
Yeah,
go.
no, that's okay. And it's not so much that we pick up every piece of new technology that comes out in the field, and we figure out how to put it into AV. That's just something AV people do, right? But I think the bigger picture is how does that fit in your design? How does that fit in your scheme? And that's where the head scratching happens. It's like, all right, I got this really cool tool, but what do I do with it? And that's where the AV design, all that kind of stuff really comes into play.
Yeah, and the one quick thing to add, the what CC mentioned about the project, we really push like the experiential learning right at Pace. So we don't just say that, like you probably heard about it a lot at the summit, and we push that everything we do is hands on, and the project that they're working on right now in that class is literally like a service based learning project. They're literally doing like what George and I do as full-time staff members, or a portion of what we do, and managing this project and upgrading this classroom. So it's really authentic.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like also, it's very hands-on learning compared to like a lot of my other classes are like writing a paper or like taking a test. Like, I think that that's really why I love it, because you get real experience in working in the fields, like with AV.
So all you guys would say for people trying to get interested in this, just start doing it. Don't worry about like, oh, I need this new computer, I need this new mic, I need all this stuff. Just start doing it and get the group kind of going.
Yeah, very well said.
The best ability is availability.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Look
Yeah.
at that. Did you have that lined
Is that
up, or did that
yours?
just?
Nah,
Nice.
that's off the dome.
Wow, off the dome. He
My
says.
man, my man, well done.
Get that in a t-shirt or something.
Nice. Well done.
We really could print it. That, yo, that'd be fire merch. Actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Can you say that slowly so I can write that down?
The best ability is availability.
Yeah.
You didn't write it down.
I'm.
You didn't write it down. Should have.
He'll ask me later. I'll tell him. Don't worry.
So, as you guys now have been, all graduated from high school, you've been through the school systems. Now you're coming back. What is like the big difference for you? Whether it be like through the technology that we have now in current classrooms, like how Cece said she was designing a new classroom, or whether it just be like the way that people talk about this industry within the school, with like the news that you have in your school, like for us, OHS News and whatever was at your guys' school, whether it was a paper, an actual show that we do here. What is the thing that you're looking at and you say, I can't believe that they haven't changed this, or I can't believe that they did change this? What was it for you?
One thing that I see a lot of now of like high school, especially my high school, that they post all the time on like Instagram and stuff, is like students doing creative projects, which I really like podcasting. You have your own podcast. I think that's really awesome to like allow students to work on like things that they enjoy in a field that's different from like regular subjects like English or math. Like, it gives them something creative to work on, and I feel like that's something I've seen a lot, especially like using new technology and like making videos or like editing videos. I think that it's cool that they get to have that opportunity to be creative and work with one another in a creative way.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, you're not to date myself, but you guys are immersed in technology. Like every room you go into has technology now, right? And I feel like from my K-12 perspective, my kids are 8 and 4 right now, also in the Ossining school. So they're I see what they have in their elementary rooms. They have smartboard. Smartboards didn't exist when I was in elementary school, right? We're sitting in this beautiful podcast studio right now, not something that was here a couple of years ago, right? I think the biggest thing here is encouraging even your friends that maybe aren't interested in AV right now or tech in general. You can have if you're interested in sports, you can have a sports podcast, like Cece kind of alluded to. It's like a very informal way to just have some downtime or have another hobby or something to just like you guys are interviewing us right now, right? I think George and I, our goal, we've reached out to plenty of professional athletes on socials to try to get them to come on our show with zero success, but like something fun like that, right? Like shoot for the stars kind of deal.
Who needs them?
One day.
One day.
maybe.
One day.
And I will say, to add to what you were saying, if you asked me a month ago, like, hey, you want to start a podcast? I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, I don't care.
And here you are.
Here I am.
I
Look at
convinced
that.
them.
Yeah.
That was
You
me.
guys
I
are doing
did
a
that.
hell of a
Love
job.
it.
Let me tell you, you guys are doing
seriously.
a hell of a job.
I feel like, and I was here last week, and you asked me about doing a team podcast, and we were chatting about that. You guys are, I would, if you didn't tell me that you were new to this, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe it. You guys are doing a great job. I just want to throw that out
I
there.
appreciate that. This has been really fun. I'm not gonna lie. I sometimes I think it's important to go off topic a little bit. Sometimes I forget that there are really just these interesting people out here, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this. And even before Ben joined, I always had this idea, I wanted to do this, because sometimes it's just you never really know the story about the person sitting next to you, and it's just interesting to ask people. And I think that you guys have a great story. I like how you came to be at Pace. I like how you came to be in the industry and the knowledge you like to spread to other people. And we were joined by someone who, no offense, I wasn't expecting, but I'm glad you came, CC.
Nice.
It's been fun to have you here as well. And, I think that having this as just, like what Rich said, an extra hobby is just, you wouldn't expect it, because it's kind of my excuse to learn someone else's story. And I could just hide behind I'm doing a podcast. But,
Yeah.
It's,
Free period, jump in the
Right.
podcast room, record.
Yeah.
Also, your excuse
Keeps you
for
out of
a few
trouble.
things.
Yeah, sure. definitely am skipping living environment right now to do this. So.
We'll edit that part out.
Yeah.
Well, just let them know
Who's
you
your
were with the
teacher?
Bald
Maybe I
AV
had them.
guys.
Maybe I had them many years
Mr.
ago.
Jonathan Dobell.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And now you just put them on the spot.
Yeah,
completely.
I
sorry.
love Mr. Dobell.
Yeah, that's fair. I think most of my teachers are retired. Sorry.
84 years
Oh, there you go. George finally got one in there.
Class of '86.
Oh,
I was 2 in 1986. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, literally.
Okay, well, I think this is probably the best time to wrap it up. Get a good stopping point in, keep everyone having some laughs and giggles. If you guys like to plug anything, I'd say now is your time. But this has been InterWho. I'm Logan.
I'm Ben.
Speaking to the mic.
You didn't plan that at all. I'm Ben.
Yeah, speaking to the mic. There we go. Now, if you guys want to plug anything, be my guest.
Yeah, we're the Bald AV guys, and we have Cece here, who's our rock star student and intern this semester. Find us on the socials.
Yay.
Woo! If George knew what button to press, we'd get a clap right now.
yeah.
But yeah, find us on socials at Bald AV guys.
Don't test stuff out.
There you go.
Yeah, we got it. Bald AV guys, yeah.
Yeah. And Cables, Coffee, and Curveballs is our
Cables,
podcast.
Coffee,
so
and Curveballs.
subscribe,
Glad
like,
you got
find
that right.
us.
Make sure to check them out.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Hey.
You're just gonna have to edit that out. Okay. I'm Logan,
I'm Ben.
and you're listening to O Radio. We put the O in radio. Thank you for listening to O Radio. Make sure to follow us on social media at O Radio OHS on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.